Alright, so this is two things. This is actually a hand line for fishing and also a PVC bait trap. But everything's self-contained in this end to fish, and everything's self-contained in this end to trap. All in one. So up here on the fishing end of things, which is this side, this is what we've got. I'm going to take this guy apart, set that aside for the moment. Okay, so this is kind of the fishing side of things. I've got a cork stuck in the end here, which will pop right out, and inside we've got fishing guard. I've got some different hook sizes, I've got swivels, I've got different types of weight, drop shot weight, basic barrel weight, three-way swivel, even threw a spinner in there for good measure, got a little weighted jig head, got a little white curly tail, just a hodgepodge of stuff in there. Ultimately, I probably would not use these. I put these in more to show you what all this thing will hold. I'd probably use this terminal tackle and then find stuff in the field to use as bait. Now up here on this end, I've got just a double-sided Velcro band around this, but underneath this I've got about 80 yards of 50-pound Power Pro. Now there's a reason that I like to use Power Pro. One being for the size, it is incredibly tough stuff and it's multi-use. This is great if you have to sew and mend anything. I've used this to sew leather, all kinds of stuff. It's super strong stuff. It can also be braided into a longer, thicker cord that is really strong. But the biggest thing is if you string monofilament on something like this, it has a lot of memory. And what that means is if you wrap monofilament around this and leave it, when you go to take it off, it's going to have memory of what it was wrapped around. So you're going to have these loops all through your line, which is a real pain. Power Pro doesn't really do that. It'll straighten right back out for you. Okay, so I do prefer the Power Pro, and I just keep that on there with the Velcro just to keep it in place. So the little cork here serves two purposes. One, it plugs it in and keeps all of my fishing stuff in here nice and dry. That's the biggest thing. This is watertight, so your hooks and stuff aren't rusting on you. But on top of that, having a natural cork equals instant bobber should you need it. Should you need to make a float, you can easily fashion one out of this. And sometimes, especially if you're hand line fishing, that's a necessity. You can use that float to drift what you're fishing out into pools that you probably ordinarily wouldn't be able to get your bait to. So having that option is a big help. Get in there, hook. There we go. Like I say, the spinner is more just to give you a little size comparison of what you can actually get in there. The biggest thing is make sure you've got enough room for your cork to fully seat in there. So if I was going to use this to fish with, I would have it in this main housing here because the two ridges from this coupling and this cap really helps to keep the line where it needs to be. Probably the easiest way to put line on this is what I'll do is I'll take the line and put it down into the end of my PVC cap and pinch it down. That really locks in there, and then you can just wind your Power Pro or fishing line, whatever you're putting on there around, put on as much as you want. That'll keep it all nice and tight and contained. So let's talk about the other end now. So when we take this apart, we've got our PVC bait stick, we've got a toggle, we've got our PVC bait stick pin, and we've got our toggle pin, all self-contained in the handle. And around the handle itself, I've got some snare wire wrapped around. This is just heavy gauge picture wire, and I've got that lashed down with another double-sided piece of Velcro just to keep it in place. Now you can use whatever you prefer for your actual snare material, whether that be bank line, paracord, picture wire like I use, whatever. But whatever you use, there's more than enough room here to have it wrapped up your handle so you always have it with you. Alright, so now let's talk about all the stuff you would need to make this. This is all made out of 3/4 inch PVC pipe. I have two 3/4 inch PVC caps. I have one 3/4 inch PVC coupling. I have one piece of 3/4 inch PVC that I cut down to 2 inches and another piece that I cut down to 7 inches. Now this may look complex, but if you look at that closely, you can see it's going all over the place. I eyeballed my holes on here. Okay, it doesn't matter ultimately. What this is used for is this is packed with bait and it's used for our snare. Okay, so the animal can't get to the bait in here and he really fiddles with it, and that's what sets off the actual trap itself. So you need air holes. You need holes that will give it enough of a tease that it wants to mess with this. So all I did was I just kind of picked a rough line, drilled all the way through, rolled it over, drilled all the way through, and that gave me a bunch of holes that made it look like a silencer, basically. You can see on this end, this is a smaller hole. I drilled this hole to be just slightly larger than a piece of coat hanger. Okay, and I came in about 1/4 of an inch and drilled there, and then this one I came in about 1/2 inch and drilled there all the way through. That just gives me some more rigging options of having 2 different holes there. Ultimately, you do want one that's up here about 1/4 inch or so from the lip. So these guys are just pieces of coat hanger. This is going to be the main pin that holds our toggle in place. This pin goes through our bait trap and punches down into the ground and holds that in place. So I cut both of these. This one I doubled over and cut it to where it would fit in our handle, and this piece I cut long enough that it's just pretty much the same length as our handle. And then this top, I bent that over to look kind of like a tent peg. We want something that's going to hold the top of that PVC in place. Now for the toggle, this is just a 1/2 inch piece of oak dowel. Again, this can be made in the field. What I did, I cut this down to about 2 inches. A lot of abouts here because you don't have to be scientific with this. About 2 inches. And then I cut a notch just off of center. So center is probably about right there, and you can see my notch is probably about 1/4 inch off of center. Okay, that's for when we rig this up later. We don't want this in the center. We want it to be off of the center. So bare bones, when you put this guy together, your 7-inch piece of PVC goes right into your coupling. End cap goes on the end of that. Your 2-inch piece of PVC will have the cork plug put in one end, the cap put in the other, and that goes right in like that. And that's the bare frame. Fishing gear goes in here. All of your trapping supplies go in here. For me, the cork that I found, this is a number 8 natural cork. If you were to buy it at a hardware store, it's number 8. The actual dimensions on it are 7/8. Alright everybody, I'm flying solo on the camera today. I'm going to try my best to actually show you what's going on. Hopefully my angles are halfway decent. So I got us a springy little sapling here that I've trimmed down. We're going to use that. I'm going to use this bright paracord today just so you can really see what's going on. I ordinarily wouldn't use this unless I had to. I prefer picture wire, but this will work as well. It's just not my go-to. All right, we're right down below our sapling here. So what we're going to do is take this guy apart. That's your fishing setup. You can take that with you and go hand line somewhere while you're waiting to let your traps do their thing if you wish. I'm also going to remove this cap. Don't necessarily need that. And I'm going to take out our inner workings here of our trap. So what we've got is our bait stick, our toggle, our bait stick pin, and our toggle pin. Now what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to go ahead and straighten it out, and then I'm going to pinch it and fold it over and basically make a big staple shape like that. Okay, this is going to go in the ground just like so. It is cold and the ground is frozen. We're just going to do the best we can, but we're going to stick that down just below our sapling like so. You can see I've cleared the dirt away, and then this, our bait stick, basically goes right in front, and that becomes the trigger. About right there should be okay. And I'm going to take my pin, stick that right down in here. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this snare end and I'm going to get it set to where it fully encompasses our bait stick, like so. Now just at the top of this is where I'm going to put in the toggle. So what we're going to do, give a little extra for a 1/2 inch, do a full loop around, and then throw in a couple 1/2 inches. We're going to pull those nice and tight. I'm going to put 2 of them on there, and then on this side I'm going to put 2 more. Pull them nice and snug. There we go. That's what we got. So remember that offset notch? The short end is back here and the long end is up here. So this is now my snare side. So what we're going to do, set that snare right around there and just kind of loosely set this guy into place. Nothing scientific. Then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to bend down my sapling. All right, so this is the end that's going down to my trap. I don't really want to change the length there. So I'm going to do all my tying off with my loose end. Throw in a couple half hitches. A half hitch is just looping it around on itself and then pulling it tight. There we go. And then you can come off down here, back behind everything, tie it off again. All right, so to set this guy, just pull your whole thing down. Back edge goes into the pin, the staple. Front edge goes right into the edge of that bait stick. You can make this as hair trigger as you want. Then just adjust your snare so that it lays all the way around that bait stick. Use sticks or whatever you need to put it into place. And there we go. All right, just to get in here a little bit closer, show you what's going on. That's our long section of coat hanger we bent into a staple. Back end of the peg goes through, the short end off the notch, tied around, edge against edge. Okay, so this is our shorter piece of coat hanger, our pin. This little point right here dictates how sensitive your setup is. And then you want to adjust it as sensitive as you can so that when it messes with it, it's going to set off and get it. So I've got just the edge of that hanging there, and just a small movement will send it going. Alright, so the good thing about the bait stick is it's really going to force the critter to fiddle with trying to get what's inside. So depending on what you're trying to get kind of dictates what you're going to put in there, or whatever you have available will dictate what you're going to put in there. But you know, whether it be nuts or berries or, you know, meat, whatever you're putting in there, they can get a good whiff of it, but they can't really get to it. So it forces them to fiddle with this thing. They're snared.